What happened?
Love it when there we go. Love it when the OBS resets the mic to default. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Love
Anyway,
when that happens.
hi
I feel like
everybody.
it's doing it more and more lately.
Yeah, it really. Every time I turn it on, it does it.
Mm.
Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Extra Credits Book Club podcast. It's me, Decker, and also Night Mother is with me, as per usual.
Good evening.
We did it, boys and girls. We finished Dawn, the first book in the Legend of the Galactic Heroes saga. We only had to read 2 chapters, so it's not like some monumental feat that we managed to get through it.
I feel like every finished book is a monumental feat at this stage in my life, though.
Yeah, some are more pleasurable than others.
Well, yeah, this one was exceptionally pleasurable because, well, in comparison to some other books we've read in the past.
Like, Six of Crows, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Or Kingdom of the Wicked. Or even Three Body Problem, which I'll have beef with probably until the day I die.
Yeah. What? The 2 chapters that we got through this last week are... They just kind of wrap everything up. Kind of.
Yeah. They wrap everything up and kind of set everything up for the next book.
Yeah. And, like, at the end, you kind of realize that this was just the preamble. Because there's no real huge cliffhanger. Nobody's in particularly significant peril. The characters all just kind of sit around at the end and go like, boy, it's certainly going to get worse, isn't it?
Yeah. But they have no idea how much worse it's going to get,
Yeah.
apparently.
Chapter 9.
Amritsar.
Yeah. It starts mid-battle like it's some kind of Star Wars movie.
Right. The Alliance is trying to get the hell out of the shitty situation that they got themselves into.
Right. Because if you remember, when we left off, the Alliance was pushing pretty deep into Imperial territory. And only then did they realize that they had a disastrous supply problem.
Yeah, they really didn't think that through at all. Because they
And
went in with like the guise of liberating all these people that were under the Empire's oppressive rule,
yeah,
but no one really cared. They were like, hey, so like, do you have food?
yeah,
And then they were like, well, I guess we have to feed these people. And they have spent a fuck ton of money and then realized they needed to get the hell out of there
yeah,
before they spent more money. But then the politicians who were like, we need this expansion to happen were like, if we don't get at least one W from this, like our ratings are going to go down significantly. So
approval
you
ratings
can't
will
leave just yet.
really hit the pot.
Mm-hmm.
And the last chapter ended with the Alliance going, all right, that's enough, fuck this, we're out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And as they decided to turn and head back to Iserlon Fortress, the Empire was like, surprise,
Mm-hmm.
we're here cutting off your supply line, baby. And the Alliance was, as per usual of the, like, true to form throughout this whole book, the Alliance gets caught with their pants down and gets absolutely bodied. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
book
And yet,
starts with 2 or 3 fleets getting annihilated.
yeah. And Yang constantly has to get like most of his military strategy ends up being used in like very clever escapes.
Mm-hmm. Like, he's trying to minimize damage.
Yeah.
That's his massive strategy. And two or three fleets get completely destroyed. And Yang is like, well, this isn't ideal.
No, and he doesn't have a good feeling about this escape he's trying to pull off, and neither does Bucock, who was the other guy. I think he's a vice admiral, and he was the one who was like, "Team Yang, I'll speak up for you,"
Mm-hmm.
to the supreme commander of Izerlon, who is unavailable to reach because he's mid-nap. But they
Right.
tr And I think they're both just like, "We don't like this." And then Frederica comes in, and she's trying to give Yang a hard time about how much brandy he's putting into his tea, and it's like, "Just leave him alone, okay?
Yeah.
Let him have his brandy."
Let the man stress drink.
Yeah.
And there's also like that is it Bucock who's like, I don't like this. This place has the same letter as uh whatever that first initial battlefield at the beginning of the book was.
Right, a start.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
Battle of Astarte.
Right.
Um and he's like, this place has the same letter, it starts with the same letter that Astarte did. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna materialize omens, then I guess that'll work.
It's a weird way for superstition to manifest. Usually superstition involves like a number of things, like or an amount of times you do something
Yeah.
or the color of something, not just this starts with the same letter.
Yeah, it's a stretch. But they were
It
also
is.
currently in the process of getting mopped up. So I
Mhm.
guess like can you claim to be prescient if it's currently happening?
No, I don't think so.
But during this battle, because the alliance is putting up almost no fight because they're trying to run away. Um Reinhardt's hot boy squad,
Yeah.
I believe Rosenritter.
Um, Mittermeier and von Ruhenthal, I think.
That's right. The two inseparables.
Yeah,
I
the,
forget
like,
what they call them.
junior Reinhardt and Kierkeis. Do they have, like, a little name for themselves? That's so cute.
I think they get nicknamed something like they're
Like, their ship name?
kind of. They're just like two best friends who ride on each other's shoulders when they're doing squats. Uh,
So true. That is they have that energy for sure.
they get greedy,
Mhm.
Mittermeier and Rose Ruenthal, and they try and push ahead. And in true Yang fashion, that's when he baps him on the nose,
Yeah.
and it causes them to like it slows the Imperial advance because Yang turns around and punches
I think
Ruin.
it's actually Wittenfeld who does that. I think, um, Mittermeier and von Ruhenthal are off kind of, like, dominating, and then Wittenfeld is, like, against Yang specifically, and then he s I think they've been I can't remember what exactly they're told to be doing, but they're, like, in the middle of changing formation, I think, and so their firepower momentarily weakens because 'cause they're, like, switching attack style or something,
Right.
and then Yang sees the pause and he just, like, totally exploits it, starts shooting a bunch of cannons, and Reinhardt gets so fucking mad at this guy because he sends out the Valkyrian too early.
Yeah.
Um, and then he gets fucked up and starts asking for reinforcements, and Reinhardt is absolutely disgusted that he would have the audacity to ask for that, that he's just like, "No."
Yeah. It's like you put yourself in this position and now you're asking for help, please. Kindly go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you're basically dead to me at this point, so
And
but Reinhardt always loves saying his favorite phrase every time they're about to, like, have a victory. He's always like, "It would appear we've won." It's just like
Yeah, it's very cringe.
It
Even though he's
is.
usually right.
Yeah.
He and I think that's when Yang escapes and ostensibly the battle's over.
Basically, well, there's a moment where Kirkai swoops in from behind,
Yeah.
and, it's so terrifying and magnificent because the way it's described is like he's, like, eclipsing the sun or something on his way in, and Yang sees his escape plan slowly, like, closing in, and he has a little panic over it, but he gets lucky, um, and I think a bunch of the starships in the Alliance start, like, warping out into subspace, which is a process I don't
Oh,
totally
right, right.
understand.
Um, I I think the consensus is that they were so scared of the situation they were in that without proper coordinates, you just like leap into hyperspace, but you don't have a destination, so you're just kind of like in that material between spaces.
Oh my god.
And they were so scared of the situation they were in that they were like, fuck this, we'll take our chances with the between.
Jesus.
So these guys are warping into subspace, and Yang's just like, are you kidding? That's so many
Yeah.
people just gone.
Yeah, and I think he manages to see some kind of opportunity. He blows a hole in Wittenfeld's flagship, and he gets his escape, and then Reinhardt is super mad about it because he wants a perfect victory so badly,
Yeah.
but Yang keeps denying him that.
It's really, they're really edging each other.
Yeah.
Neither of them can get, well, Yang's not really interested in the nut,
No,
but Reinhardt is. He's
he wants it so
desperate for
bad.
it. And afterwards, Reinhardt just roasts the shit out of his boys.
Oh my god. But there's a little moment that, the narrator makes certain we know that von Ruenthal is a very handsome boy, and he's got
Yeah.
2 different colored eyes. So just
Everybody,
so everyone's
the
aware, everybody in the Admiralitat is so hot, okay?
hot boy squad. And Brian, I didn't write down anything Reinhardt said, but it was all really good. Like he was tearing them limb from limb
Yeah,
on the bridge of Brunhild.
yeah, and he basically he gives Wittenfeld, like, the scolding of a lifetime and basically sends him to his room without supper.
Yeah, you're confined to quarters until I fucking say so. Now, leave my sight.
Yeah, and then I think Reinhard storms off and Kierkegaard's gives everybody an apologetic look and, like, scurries after Reinhardt, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"So, like, why like, what's going on? Like, what are you actually mad about?" He's like, "Are you really mad at Wittenfeld, or are you, like, mad at yourself?" And Reinhardt is like, "Oh, fine. I won't take his fleet away. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm mad that I got my victory denied."
that cursed Yang.
Yeah. They just have, like, a little boyfriend's debrief,
And
and then Reinhardt's
there's a great. It's one of the weirdest paragraphs in the whole book, and I think it is a product of the translation because Kierkegaard is like, you should go apologize.
Mhm.
And Reinhardt's like, you're right. Can you do it for me?
Yeah.
And Kierkegaard is like, no, I can't. If I do, it won't. They'll just like me and hate you.
Mhm.
And then the paragraph underneath that has to explain why. It has to explain why a
Oh,
superior officer should apologize for being a dickhead.
yeah.
Because in human nature, people appreciate apologies.
Mhm. It's
It's
like,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
we kinda
I
know.
get it.
You don't need to elaborate. That's
And
enough.
I think that is just some weird translation wibbly wobbliness.
It could be, yeah. Because I thought that was weird too. I was like, yeah,
I
of
don't I
course.
don't need apologies explained to me, man. No.
Yeah.
And then it's back to Yang, who's got his feet up on his desk again.
Drinking tea with lots of brandy.
Yeah, and Frederica Greenhill turns up again. I think she tries to have like a heart to heart with him, and he hits her with like cold hard facts.
Yeah, he says, I have something to tell you. In history, there are two schools of thought. There are things more valuable than life, and the other says that nothing is more important than life. And when people go to war, they use the former as the excuse, and then when it's over, they use the latter as the reason. I thought that was really, I mean, she was probably not stoked to hear that. She was like,
Yeah,
I'll give you your brandy and I'll be showing myself out now.
and I wrote in my notes to remind me that he did that. I wrote, "Just remember, Frederica, everything in war is a lie,"
Yeah.
because it's basically what he said.
Yeah, and he's kind of wondering to himself if like Reinhardt is aspiring to be the next Rudolph.
Yeah, he's kind of like he's tryharding this big time.
Mhm.
What's his angle? And he's like, I wonder if he's trying to. And in true, like Japanese two rivals kind of stuff, Yang is like, I wonder if he's, and then he explains exactly what Reinhardt is planning to do.
Yeah. Then he has a little nap.
Yeah, well earned.
Yeah, truly. But
Then we're
that's
on
pretty much it for
to,
chapter 9.
yeah, we're on to the last chapter
A new
where
prologue.
more the Alliance can't understand how their misguided and foolish planning ended in a catastrophic failure.
And their catastrophic failure is something like
20 million
70.
dead.
Yeah, 70% of their entire military force.
Hmm.
And they sent everyone out, like, that's literally it's not just, like, the force they sent out, it's 70% of their entire
Yeah,
military
they really
force.
bet the farm on this, but
Yeah.
didn't do their due diligence.
Yeah, and they barely hung on to Iserlohn, which was, like, such a huge W for them, and I think the expeditionary force completely abandoned the 200 star systems that they temporarily occupied and was just, like, an expensive, awful disaster.
To the point like this is such a massive L
Yeah.
that even back home the pro-war faction is like, you know what? I'm kind of soft on it.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, don't let your emotions get in the way of hating war."
Look, we all had a real bad time, and I think we need to rethink a strategy. But let's not be hasty and say this was a mistake.
Yeah, but the entire High Council basically submits their resignation, and the anti-war faction becomes the one in power,
Yeah.
and that guy Trunicht, who we heard a little bit about
Yeah, he
last
got
time,
made
who is
interim like
yeah,
supreme counselor or some fucking bullshit.
and he was, like, fantasizing about that,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what chapter he was in,
He
but
was in a
he
lot of them because he was the one that the widow embarrassed,
Oh, that guy.
and then he sent the Proud Boys after her.
Right. And then I think they start giving double promotions to dead people, which is just like,
Yeah,
ugh,
it's very cringe.
it is.
Uh, and anyone who isn't dead gets reassigned into oblivion.
I know, including Kazernan. I feel so bad for him because he's like Yang's bestie, and he gets sent to be a commander of some far off frontier land.
Yeah,
And he like basically has to take the fall for the supply chains being shitty when it wasn't his fault at all. and he has a wife and these 2 small girls, and they all have to go live back with her parents because they can't go with him to Frontierland, and he's just like, "'Kay, I guess I'll be home whenever I can."
Basically, everyone who is involved with that operation is getting smoked,
Mhm.
except for Yang, because his fleet was the only one that didn't lose a single person.
Yeah, and Bucock, who I think is promoted to full admiral.
Yeah. Like, no one is safe from punishment except for Yang and Bucock, and Yang becomes the most famous person in the whole alliance.
Yeah, he has to go on a little vacation off the grid so that he's, like, not bombarded by paparazzi, and he's just like, he actually it sounds like he has a really cute time, actually. He's, like, in nature, he takes a break from drinking, doesn't have to be and, like, Julian is there,
Yeah.
and they just have a super cute time, and then I think the Proud Boys send him a congratulations letter or something,
Yeah.
and he's like,
He just kind of laughs it
"Thanks."
off.
Yeah.
He's like, these assholes, can you believe this?
Mhm.
Look at this. Julian, come look at this. They're sending me a
Yeah.
fruit basket. These guys
Yeah,
are
an
trying to
edible
destroy my
arrangement.
house.
And he gets promoted to admiral as well, which
Yeah.
I think is the first time anybody's been promoted thrice in the same year. And
Yeah.
he gets, like, he's appointed to being, like, the commander of Iserlohn, so that's essentially he has to leave his house and, like, he's just living on Iserlohn now.
Yeah.
And he was like, "God, what am I gonna do about Julian?" And Julian's like, "As if you're leaving me."
Yeah, I'll just come with.
Yeah.
And then we get some dreadful news
Mhm.
that Emperor
Friedrich the
Friedrich
4th
died
suddenly.
suddenly, even though, like, as they describe his death, they're like, oh my god, he died so suddenly from his body being racked with disease.
Yeah, so suddenly from natural causes.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. He was so promiscuous with women in his younger days, and now he's racked with syphilis. I can't believe he's just died.
Yeah. He had, like, some kinda heart disease too, I think.
Yeah. Basically, he is lucky he lived that long.
Yes.
But this revelation throws the Empire into a power vacuum like none other.
Mhm, and Reinhardt's so mad because he's like, "Oh, if only he'd lasted, like, 2 more years and I
Yeah.
could've killed him properly." Oh, and then, von Oberstein tells them, like, there's no success Friedrich didn't have any successor, and he uses the name Friedrich instead of calling him the emperor or his, like, royal supreme majesty or whatever, and Reinhardt and Kirkai's, like, feign a little scandalized gasp. They're like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, you said his name? Arrest this man."
Yeah. They were like, how dare you call him by his fucking given name, Paul? And
Yeah,
he's like, what? He's dead. What is he gonna do to
yeah,
me?
"I only care about you, so fucking sue me."
Arrest me or kiss me. But then we get a pretty lengthy overview of the kind of politicking and like backstabbing games that are being played of who gets
Mhm.
to rule the empire. Because
Yeah,
a little kid is put on the throne, and everyone's like,
a
ooh,
toddler.
this means that we get to do whatever we want. And like people are promising like their daughters, like if you do this for me, I promise you can marry my daughter when she's empress. And I'm like, okay. He's promised that to like 7 people.
Yeah. And there are 3 grandchildren of Friedrich's who are kind of the 3 main fighting contenders for this throne.
Mhm.
one of whom has no military force of his own. And that's who von Oberstein thinks is gonna start trying to appeal to him and by extension Reinhard, because he wants Reinhard to
Yeah,
ally with
because
him, and give him this military powers. And then there's a little sentence that's like, Reinhard's attractive features seemed to glow as he flashed a different kind of smile than the one reserved for Kirkai's. And he's like, let's see how much we can lease the Admiralitat for.
yeah. And it's so funny because Reinhardt, when he heard that the Emperor was dead, he was like, "No, my plans." And
Mhm,
Paul's like, "Actually, this works out way better than your original plan.
mhm.
This is big for us, sir.
Yeah.
We're on easy street. Everybody wants to have the golden brat in their pocket
Mhm.
because he can't be beat. He's too good."
And
And
I think doesn't Reinhard become a marquis, or
yeah,
do they say Mar
he
how do
becomes
they
a
pronounce it in the book?
it's Marquis, which is
Marquis, right.
wrong.
Yeah, shouldn't it be marquis?
Yeah,
Yeah,
should.
that's what I thought. I was really confused because I hear Marquess and I think that's a like the female version of it, but then that's Marchioness, I think.
Marquesa.
Oh. Well, then in Downton, when Edith got she married a
Look,
marquis.
it's the British.
Yeah, true.
But because Reinhardt gets made a marquis, the rest of the high nobility are like, this is an outrage. You can't just hand out land titles.
They're
He,
pissed.
like, I can't believe that this guy had to work for his title and we were just given it. This is unbelievable.
Mhm.
I won't sit here and let this normal person sit in the same room as us. And
Yeah.
it for all intents and purposes starts the beginning of a civil war. Like
Yeah.
the empire splits into a faction of like, hey, Reinhardt's all right, maybe just let him be a fucking marquis, and old money, which is like, absolutely not. This is not the tradition.
Yeah, they're so threatened by it. And, Reinhard promotes Kierkeis to senior admiral and vice commander in chief, and von Oberstein has been noticing Reinhard's favoritism for Kierkeis for a while, and he doesn't like it. He tries to kind of pull Reinhard aside and be like, "So, like, it's great to have a childhood friend. Like, it's
Yeah.
great to have your bro, the love of your life, your soulmate with you all the time, but maybe don't also make him your second in command. Just a thought, but I don't think it's great for business and great for your brand." And Reinhardt is described as not liking hearing words spoken against the one who was his other self, which is the most in love sentence I've ever
No
heard
kidding.
in my
And
life.
it's so, like, you think that Oberstein is going to like start laying seeds to like, hey, let's ditch this Kierkeis. He's holding you back, but really he's just like, look, I get it. He's dope. You like him, but people are starting to notice the nepotism, bro.
Mhm.
And people are gonna stop following you blindly if you just keep promoting your favorite boy over and over. He didn't even do
Yeah,
anything that important.
no. But
And
Reinhardt
Reinhardt's like,
shuts it down immediately.
how dare you?
Yeah. "How dare you say that about my favorite boy?" He basically, like, slams the door in his face, like,
Yeah.
he is unavailable to hear criticism against
Yeah,
Kierkegaard.
I simply will not hear it. And then there's
Mhm.
a moment between him and Kierkegaard where he's like, "Do you think that this galaxy will be mine and I can rule it totally?" And Kierkegaard is like, "What? Why did you word it like that?" And he's
Yeah,
like,
I
well,
forgot
do
about
you?
that.
And he's like, yeah, I guess that's the whole point we're here, right? And he goes, I'm glad you're on my side.
Yeah.
Because it's really, he, not verbatim, but he almost genuinely says, like, why did you say it like that?
Yeah. Like, weird choice of words.
That's a weird way to say it, sir.
Yeah, but, like, yeah? And then, we find out Anne Rose's fate, where basically she gets to retire to a countryside estate where Kirkais dotes on her every day and probably just listens to her being like, "So, like, I made more things, like, do you wanna," and, like, just, like, feeds him more
Yeah.
terrible bacon, and he's
You
like,
want to
"Thank
try this rhubarb pie?
you."
Yeah,
"I made a
sure.
tort. Do you wanna see my greenhouse?"
Boy. Then
And then
we,
basically that part ends with it being like, "If only these days could go on forever and ever, et cetera," but they can't.
etc., etc. And then we go back to
Rubinsky.
Fazan
Mhm.
and Rubinsky, who
Oh,
is
this part was interesting.
talking to someone who he has no interest in talking to.
The Grand Bishop.
Yeah, who turns out to be some kind of leader of some bizarre religious cult that is super in love with Earth and claims that they are the Earth's true rulers.
Yeah, and is Rubinsky on this guy's team? Like, do you think he's pro, "Let's restore Earth to its glory," or is he just kind of, like, playing all sides?
I think this guy gave Rubinsky a bunch of fucking money
Okay.
because the way he's described when he's having this conversation is like he's putting up with this guy.
Yeah.
But this guy also scares him.
Mhm.
And they're like, once we get everybody who appreciate Earth as our, genesis, then things will start to work out in our favor. Rubinsky was like half asleep and he's like, yep, you got it. Anyway, I've got things I need to do. So we'll talk later. Goodbye.
Yeah, because Earth essentially at this point is this plundered shell of a planet
Yeah.
that everybody kind of ignores. Like Rudolph didn't even try and conquer it when he was doing his initial conquering of the galaxy. It's been kind of like abandoned for 800 years, but Earth loyalists will stay behind trying to farm the land that doesn't produce anything. And it hit a little close to home.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, "Ooh, that future feels very immediate."
Yeah. It feels like it's right outside the door.
Yeah.
Peering in,
Mhm.
trying to look through the people. But then
But
we
I think, before he hangs up with this guy, the Grand Bishop, he's like, "Rubinsky, don't you ever betray me, don't even think about it."
yeah,
And Rubinsky's like, "I'm
got it.
surprised to hear you even say that to me. I never thought you'd speak to me like that."
Definitely won't. Are you
Mhm.
crossing your fingers? No. Anymore. Then we go back to Yang, and Yang dips his toe because he's like going over bits and bobs. Like he's going over reports of Frederick, the Emperor's death. I forgot his name already.
Friedrich.
Friedrich. He's going over reports, like news articles of his death. And he like dips his toe into like brutal tactics, like
Yeah.
ruthlessness. And he's like, what I could do if I was a completely heartless maniac is this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, but that's mean. And he's like, but it would work.
Yeah,
I
and then I
forget what
think
it
he starts
was.
wondering, I can't remember either. but and he kind of, like, resents his brain for it a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think he starts thinking like, "God, I wonder if that's what Reinhardt is about to try to do." And I think Reinhardt on the other side is thinking to himself, like, "We're not gonna be able to avoid a decisive battle with the Highborn." And it kinda sets it up for, like, civil war in the Empire.
Yeah, the Empire Civil War is next on the docket for sure. Because the uppity high nobility essentially like took their ships and fucked off.
Yeah.
Like they took all of their allied military ships and were like, "We're leaving. Goodbye."
Mhm.
And Reinhardt's like, "Well, I guess we're having to deal with this now." And Yang is like, "Well, if they fight each other, then maybe we can sneak in and team up with somebody else so that we can completely squash Reinhardt. And then once we've done that, we'll squash everybody else." And he's like, "No, but that's really brutal and vicious. And I'm kind of a dickhead for even thinking it."
Yeah,
And he's like,
exactly.
"But this will give us some breathing room if they do go into a civil war. We can start to rebuild our force because they'll be focused on each other."
Yeah.
And then that's kind of
And
it.
yeah, like, we have one more little moment with Yang where he and Julian are having a conversation, and, I think von Schomkampf is teaching Julian how to shoot a gun,
Oh, that's right.
and Julian's really good at it, and he goes to Yang, he's like, "I never see you shooting guns." And
Yeah,
Yang's like, "Oh, I'm awful
yeah, I'm
at gun
trash at it.
shooting, like, I'm never gonna that's just not for me." And Julian's like, "Well, what if like, what if you have to defend yourself?" He's like, "If it gets to that point in a fight, like, we've lost already. If a commanding officer
Yeah,
needs in a space battle, needs to be using a gun." And Julian's like, "Okay, well, I'll protect you."
yeah,
He's
and
like,
then
"Thanks,
sure,
Julian." Pats him
whatever
on the head.
you like to do. And then the
Mm.
narrator gives us the dopest, like old school. Tune
Mhm.
in next week. For our heroes will face a peril they have yet to understand.
Mhm.
And it's like dun dun dun, and then the book's
Yeah.
over.
And the music comes in, and that's the end.
We did it.
We made it. This was, a book that was very breezy in a way that I didn't expect.
Despite the content, very easy to read or listen to, I guess. It about to take a shit.
It might I
Yeah,
lost you for a second.
yeah. My bit rate
Oh,
is
you're
it.
back.
My bit rate's at 0.
Oh, no. It's okay. I can hear and see you again.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It'll work
Yeah,
out
it's
one way
at
or another.
10,000. But I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh,
Um,
it
yeah,
despite that the content of the book, it's actually super easy to read or
that's
listen
true.
to.
Yeah, like, the way that strategy is described is very engaging and helps you create, like, a mental picture.
Yeah,
Even with giant space battles. Like, I thought I was gonna have issues being engaged in it, or I guess I would have felt that way if I hadn't seen the remake of the anime.
right.
Like, I think if I hadn't seen what I've seen, I would have gone into this feeling a lot more apprehensive about how exciting I'd find it, but I found it very good start to end.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It only gives you the information you need to get what's like. They're not going to give you minute details. You don't need to know those. You don't
Yeah,
need
I
to know that
appreciated that.
the ships like drift 15 degrees starboard and
Yeah,
and like they just give you kind of like like you are being told what's happening the same way that the commander's staring at that big chessboard with the toy pieces that they slide across. Like that kind of stuff. Like that's the kind of information you're receiving, as opposed to minute detail that would make your head spin.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
And the characters are just so great. They're all really well thought out.
That's the best part of honestly, like, I love that there's no good or bad guys, but it's not done in an edgelord way, like, I'm looking at George R. R. Martin when I'm saying this, like, some characters, he's like, "Ooh, he's, like, morally gray," and,
Yeah.
like, describes it in a way that's, like, very masturbatory, but with this, it's just like, here are characters, here are their motivations. No he like, there's no additional discourse being talked about how they're not good or bad or being
Right.
pulled in different moral directions. Like there's no conversations around morality. And it's just a description of people, what their motivations are and who they are at their core and the
Hmm.
relationships around them. And I found that really compelling because it gives you more of an opportunity to like see the nuances between the different factions and why they're fighting or why they're not fighting or why they want to conquer a galaxy or go have a nap.
Yeah, it never really tries to guide your perspective. Like
Mhm.
it's never like, ooh, the empire is bad because it's a monarchy and those are bad.
Yeah.
And it's not like the alliance is bad because they're like one sneeze away from a full-blown dictatorship.
Yeah.
They just give you, like, they show you who these people are, warts and all, and then go, these are who they are.
Yeah,
And
I
you
like when a
make up
book doesn't sorry.
and you end up kind of rooting for both of them.
Mhm. Yeah, I like it when a book doesn't try and do the work for you, like,
Yeah.
it allows you to actually consider, like, people's motivations beyond it being like, "And that's why what they were doing was very bad."
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what is the Legend of the Galactic Heroes about?
Boys in love.
True. It's also I if I had to seriously give like a one sentence synopsis of this book, it would have to be two people who want the same thing but in different ways.
Mhm.
And they go about it in different ways too.
And if they met under different circumstances, they just might fall in love.
Kirkais would have some competition.
He would. 'Cause there's something about the way that Reinhardt and Yang really admire each other's minds
Hmm.
that I think is a relationship that's unique to them. Like, I think it's a totally different one from the one he has with Kierkeis.
I think that's even brought up at some point in the book where they're like, damn, under other circumstances, we could be friends.
Mhm.
Because this guy, I like the way this guy thinks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the book. And I'm
Mhm.
honestly shocked we got almost an hour out of 2 chapters.
Same, I was kinda nervous that it was gonna be, like, 20 minutes,
Yeah,
and we were like, "Oh, that's it."
yeah. I was really nervous there for a second. But
Mhm.
we get to pick a new book. But before we do that, thank you guys for watching this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new book. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe, please. We're so close.
Please. Mhm.
Okay, bye everybody.